Hi everybody, welcome to Black Americana. I'm Ashley, and in today's episode, we are celebrating the Wiz. Now, over the years, there has been a lot of discourse as to whether or not a black version of The Wizard of Oz was necessary, but the Wiz is so much more than that. It was a creative indulgence of a critical time in American history. So we are going to draw a correlation between the film and Black American history. Now, there have been many versions of The Wiz made, so we are going to focus on the 1978 film starring Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, and a host of other legends. So if you're ready, keep watching. Before we continue to The Wiz, let's take a look at the original work, The Wizard of Oz. While all of these theories were not confirmed by the author L. Frank Baum, they are still topics of discussion by fans and historians alike. Baum's son Harry stated his father often used elaborate childlike elements to explain adult issues to his children. He would then sometimes use this material in his work. The Wizard of Oz was published in 1900 during the Populist movement in the United States. Populism, to put it simply, is when the everyday person leads rather than the elite. The movement in the United States was spurred by white farmers and the white working class in rural America who felt politically abandoned. So, for a couple of examples, farmland areas in states like Kansas, where the book's main character Dorothy Gale is from, were being ravaged by dust bowls. Farmers wanted more natural disaster relief. The movement also wanted American currency to be backed by silver rather than gold to control inflation. In fact, in the book, Dorothy's shoes are silver, not the renowned ruby red slippers we see in the movie. Red just so happened to pick up better on camera in 1930s cinema, but many believe Baum made the shoes silver in the novel as a nod to the movement. Even the Oz is thought to be a reference to the abbreviation for ounces. During this same period, Black Americans were having to forge our own path. The collapse of Reconstruction left no substantive repair from slavery and fostered state-sanctioned terrorism. By the late 1800s, Jim Crow was a legalized norm. Agriculture was a way of life for many Black Americans, but exclusion from the open market and being strong-armed out of our land caused many to be pushed out of the industry. While Black Americans were searching for new inroads, the Second Industrial Revolution was in full swing. Northern cities were enjoying a boom in industries like steel, and methods like the assembly line created an employment surge. The combination of overt racism and erasure in agriculture resulted in Black Southerners seeking refuge in the northern, midwestern, and western United States. That movement became known as the Great Migration. Of course, there was already a rich Black history above the Mason-Dixon line prior to the Great Migration, and many Black Americans were key in developing the Far West. Cities like Chicago, Detroit, and New York provided jobs at plants, better infrastructure, and less blatant racism. But still, new regional elements overwhelmed many Black Americans. Harlem, where the Wiz is set, is world-renowned for its art and activism, and it was a haven for many during the Great Migration. In the film's opening scene, Dorothy and multiple generations of her family enjoy Thanksgiving dinner. After dinner, her Aunt Em encourages her to explore life beyond Harlem, but Dorothy bristles at the idea. She doubts if she could survive anywhere other than her neighborhood. Her world changes when a snowstorm comes to the city and she runs to retrieve her beloved dog Toto. Coming from the hot and often humid South made New York winters a shock for Southerners, so it is fitting that Dorothy is swept away in a snowstorm rather than a dust storm to the land of Oz. What she doesn't realize is it will be a journey through an American origin story. She lands in Munchkin Land, a plantation of sorts, with the Wicked Witch of the East as the overseer. Dorothy's arrival smashes the Oz sign, slaying the Wicked Witch of the East. Dorothy inadvertently emancipates the Munchkins, and they trek towards freedom. As Dorothy journeys along, she meets Miss Swan, the Good Witch of the North, who physically embodies the North Star. Miss Swan gives Dorothy a pair of silver slippers, symbolic of the lanterns escaped slaves carried as they bolted into the unknown. She also tells Dorothy to follow the yellow brick road and went there to meet with the Wiz in Emerald City for help. The yellow brick road marks the start of Dorothy's great migration journey. She soon stumbles upon a scarecrow who is being teased by crows. The scarecrow appreciates intellectualism, but the crows, who should be intimidated by him, have convinced him that he is clueless and should follow their lead. The scarecrow is symbolic of misguided youth who can be easily swayed by bad influences. As promising as the North sounded, many Southerners were weary of the perils of city life. The Wiz brilliantly used the song as symbolism to reflect this dichotomy. As Dorothy scares the crows away, she and the scarecrow decide to go to Emerald City together. This new duo is the first time we hear the song Ease On Down the Road. Traveling from the south to the north in and of itself could be dangerous. It is speculated that Ease On Down the Road speaks to the risk of this move. Now you might say, if they are going north, then why are they singing Ease On Down? This is where we explain AAVE, African American Vernacular English. Some say Ebonics, but we prefer Black American English. Down is often used as an adverb signifying a place of settlement or a state of completion. It is similar in theory to a line in the Negro spiritual Glory, Glory, Hallelujah, where it says, "Since I laid my burden down." Or how when someone asks if you want to meet up, you might respond with, "I'm down with that." So geographically, they were moving up, but they were easing down from the tension and heartache of the South. During slavery, songs were subliminally used to give other slaves instructions as to how they could reach freedom without the plantation owner's knowledge. After emancipation, Black Americans adapted this approach into what is now known as work songs, so they could deliver messages to each other without their bosses being able to decipher. But even with the joyfulness of Ease On Down the Road, it warns this journey will have dark times. Throughout the United States, Black Americans face severe dangers on roads and highways and often warn each other what places not to visit. Dorothy and the Scarecrow then meet the Tin Man, who is yearning for a heart. He is an example of how the grit and grind of the city and life's heartbreak can harden a person. As the three approach some taxi cabs, their lights quickly change to off-duty, an example of the racial prejudice many Black folks face when hailing a cab. The quartet is rounded out when they meet the Cowardly Lion, who wants courage. So they head to Emerald City in agreement. The Scarecrow wants a brain, the Tin Man wants a heart, the Cowardly Lion wants courage, and Dorothy wants to go home. As they near Emerald City, they stumble upon a subway that ends up being haunted. It is a stark reminder of the warning issue in Ease On Down the Road. Black travelers often face dangers like severe racism. Once they escape the subway, they meet a new danger. They encounter the Poppy Girls. When many Black Americans arrived in the North, they often encountered new vices. Solicitation and illegal substances were the downfall of many. The Poppy Girls are dressed in vivid shades of red and pink, similar to a red light district, and like the intoxicating flower they are named after. Once they maneuver away from the Poppy Girls, they discover Emerald City and are immersed in a world of sophistication. As the old saying goes, Emerald City is on the other side of the tracks compared to where the Poppy Girls live. Green and emerald motifs speak to affluence. The residents of Emerald City dress immaculately and disparage the color red, which is no longer in fashion. But shortly afterwards, the Wiz announces over the intercom that green is out and red is indeed in. Just as the residents rationalize donning red, the Wiz tells them the color is now gold. During the gold sequence, the Wiz takes notice of Dorothy and instructs her, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion to come see him. Some residents of Emerald City are upset because they have spent weeks bending to the Wiz's every demand. The Emerald City residents show the disillusion of assimilation. You can have the right degree and qualifications and still not be chosen for the job. You can wear the most elegant fashions and be stereotyped. You can have money in the bank and still denied the purchase of a home. Likewise, many Black Americans discovered conformity did not ensure access. The quartet meet the Wiz and let him know their request. He tells them he cannot do anything for them until they slay his arch rival Eone, the Wicked Witch of the West and the sister of the Wicked Witch of the East. The news is disappointing because Dorothy and her friends don't want to sow conflict. Many Black Americans face this predicament when they moved to new places and felt they had to fight each other for resources. Dorothy and her friends jump down a manhole to get to Evelyn's sweatshop. The Poppy Girls and other outcasts are also there, chained as they prepare to join other workers on the assembly line. The sweatshop has a heavy red theme, symbolic of redlining. Cornell law defines redlining as, quote, a discriminatory practice that consists of the systemic denial of services such as mortgages, insurance loans, and other financial services to residents of certain areas based on their race or ethnicity, end quote. Many Black Americans were relegated to tenement slums or deteriorating housing projects when they moved north. Some also worked in sweatshops and in factories with dangerous conditions. They were also met with hostility from some of the white residents. To an extent, it was another form of slavery. Some would even say it was how Jim Crow manifested itself in the North. Evelyn sends the flying monkeys to chase Dorothy and her friends, like a police chase. They are detained and taken before Evelyn to plead their case. Dorothy weeps as she sees the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion be tortured as Evelyn pressures her to take off her silver slippers. This is reflective of the intimidation tactics often used during the Civil Rights Movement. Another tactic often used against protesters during the Civil Rights Movement was water hoses. Dorothy defeats Evelyn by turning on the sprinkler system and Evelyn melts away. The forceful use of water could be viewed as poetic justice. The Civil Rights Movement delivered incredible victories. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. With the feeling that evil has been defeated, the sweatshop breaks into the song A Brand New Day. Black Americans felt a new confidence and relief at the turn of the 1970s after long overdue legal measures had been put in place. The dancers in the scene are wearing more of their natural hair and seem less consumed with materialism, unlike the dancers in Emerald City. In real life, more history was being made, like electing more Black politicians, reinforcing the idea that Black interests were being championed. The flying monkeys take Dorothy and her friends back to Emerald City so they can finally have their wishes granted by the Wiz. To their shock, they discover the Wiz is a fraud. He is actually Herman Smith, a failed politician from Atlantic City. He embodies the realization that many Black Americans had that an influx of Black politicians does not guarantee Black progress. Herman becomes the Wiz because the residents are impressed by his hot air balloon, another example of how sometimes the Black electorate has given our vote in exchange for pandering and poor policy. Herman begs Dorothy and her friends not to expose him as a fraud, another example of how Black voters might struggle to hold our leaders accountable. Instead, Dorothy helps each of her friends realize they already have what they are looking for. Glenda, the Good Witch of the South, appears, embodying the rich heritage and wisdom our ancestors nurtured in the South. She explains to Dorothy that home is to have belief in yourself and that no circumstances can deter you. Herman asks if Dorothy can do for him what she has done for her friends. She tells him he will have to learn to believe in himself, as she has, and be willing to leave a place of stagnancy. As the friends say their goodbyes, they encourage each other with what they have learned. It is an example of how our people might have dealt with separation, but our love, kinship, and culture have helped us to build the home we carry within us. The Wiz is a stunning exploration of the experience of Black Americans in the United States from slavery to the post-civil rights movement. And in some ways, it is still incredibly accurate. So in the 21st century, what can we glean from this timeless work? For one, remember how far we have come. As Dorothy reflects on her time in Oz, she builds confidence to know she can face the world. Our history is a complicated one, but we are a resilient people. When you consider how our ancestors and elders have survived and thrived, how can you today ever doubt yourself? Thank you for joining us. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, like, comment, and share. And be sure to visit our website at www.BlackAmericanamedia.com so you can stay current on what's going on with the culture and sign up for our newsletter. See you soon.